Hey, welcome back, parents. Happy Teenager Tuesday.
Yes, I love Teenager Tuesday.
Yes, back with Will and Tisha.
Hi, guys.
Hey, talking through Friends, part 2 of Friends.
Mm-hmm.
And like we said last week, we are talking about, this week we're talking about being a good friend, on how can we continue to teach our students about being a good friend before we teach them how to find good friends or anything like that. How can we focus on growing them internally to then kind of be better at making those connections and making better connections. One thing that we teach our middle schoolers every single year.
It's in the rotation.
It is. It's one of our, we call it one of our stickies. We have 7 stickies. And where it's like throughout the year, if we don't teach everything, what are the 7 things we're going to make sure that we're going to teach? And one of those is to have good friends, you have to be a good friend. And then we really focus on how can you as a young middle schooler, high schooler, grow as being a good friend. Because the better you are, the better friends you'll probably end up making.
For sure.
And I love how Romans 12, it kind of gives some definition to this. I think it'd be great, like starting out with our students, if you need scripture to say, how can I start this conversation with my students with scripture on how to be a good friend? Romans 12, verse 10 through 13, it says, be good friends who love deeply. Practice playing second fiddle. I love how
it says that.
And this is the Message version. Don't bum out. Keep yourselves fueled and aflame. Be alert, servants of the master, cheerfully expectant. Like just be happy, be joyful because of our eternal grace. Don't quit in hard times. Pray all the harder. Help needy Christians and be inventive in hospitality.
I love that.
Inventive in hospitality.
New ways. Find new ways.
Yes.
To love people.
I love even Jesus. Like when he was talking to, this is like one of the craziest moments I think of Jesus being on earth is when he told his disciples, I no longer call you servants, but now you're my friends.
Call you friends.
Like Jesus was that example of friendship.
So
Tisha, you're really gonna, kind of take the conversation from here. But so what are ways if we kind of went through and gave as many tips as we could?
We have some tips to share today, and honestly, I've seen a lot of these, all of them, play out in my own students' life, and not only that, but in my own life too. I think I said this in our last podcast, but if we have to model stuff in front of our students, and in modeling it, they're learning from us. And so they're learning something from us.
They're watching.
Are we being intentional about what they're learning, or are we just kind of flippantly living life and then telling them one thing but doing another? And so, we're going to go through. So our first tip that I'm going to just share is make things more about them and less about you. And this is like teaching your student, like, hey, reaching out to someone, talking to someone, asking them about their lives. Now, listen, as a teenager and middle schooler, I mean, we know that they are chatty and they want to talk about themselves, what they're into, their Minecraft game, the video games that they're playing, the band thing that they're doing, the sports tryouts. We get it. Like, they want to talk a lot about their selves, and this can be so hard to teach students to kind of view this from a different perspective and a different lens. And I think it comes from the need of wanting to be known, but also teaching them that you're not the only one that needs to be known or wants to be known.
That's so good.
Others want to be known too. And so what can you do? What are the questions you can ask? And I'll tell you, if you start asking other students or friends these questions, they're going to start doing the same thing back to you. And how cool is it to walk away from a conversation and the person you just had a conversation with, man, I love them. Man, they really wanted to get to know me and spend time with me. And I talk to my students all the time. Don't you love that feeling? Help create that for someone else, right?
I mean, that's the type of person you want to talk to. Is the one that's interested in you.
Absolutely.
More than you trying to get them interested in you.
In what you're doing.
Right. Yeah. I think that what makes that so hard too is that we are with us all the time.
Right. And so we just want to talk about our stuff, and we know us really well.
Yes.
So it's a comfortable subject a lot of times for us to talk about.
Great word.
At least the shallow stuff.
For sure.
Easy. I think the second thing is just teaching our students to stick with it. There are tough conversations that need to be had. Sometimes it's hard getting a hold of friend because it's a busy season for them. And so they're not texting me back or we're not able to hang out. But it's just teaching our students to continue to be tenacious with friendships, especially ones that matter to them.
Yeah.
And it's not, I think a lot of times we assume someone doesn't like us or they don't want to be our friends or they're being rude. They're like sliding us on purpose, but that's not true. Oftentimes, someone has something going on and we just have to continue to reach out even when we're not getting that. And it can be hard to do that. Or maybe someone says something that hurts our feelings and we're just like, they're not our friends anymore. Well, that's not the right way to handle it because they've been your friend for so long and they've poured into you and you have a deep connection. So what can you do to bridge that friendship?
Yeah, I think that's so good. And I think that trains students early on too on how they can operate inside of romantic relationships too.
For sure.
Because if you can practice getting through hard things like tough conversations, being open about what hurt your feelings and that stuff, I think that does better set you up as a person for serious dating, marriage, all of that.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Friendships, I think, are just a setup in general for a romantic relationship because who doesn't want to marry their best friend, right? Yeah. Like that is the goal, I think. I hope for everybody is it. Yeah. I think there's a few like caveats to that, like a red flag, like if a student's being bullied or, trampled, like obviously there's those things. But for the most part, middle schoolers and high schoolers sometimes are, and sometimes adults even, just it's quick to stop something that could be really good because it's gotten hard. And just because it's hard doesn't mean it's bad. So I think the third thing is teaching our students that it's like not to be afraid to initiate. Yeah. I know this is something that's big in my household because I've got a lot of introverted kids and they never want to be the one that goes first. Yeah. And they're like, no, I don't do that. Yeah. They're like, they always say, Mom, you do that, but I don't do that. And I'm like, well, I do it maybe in an outgoing way, but that doesn't mean that that's not what you can do. Yeah. And how someone has to go first. Someone has to be brave enough to make the first move, to ask the first question. And if we're always waiting on someone else to make the first step, then we're going to be waiting a long time.
It's true. Yeah. Because then you just kind of sit there, if everybody wants to be invited to the party, to the hangout, to the prom, to something, but it's so much more nerve-wracking on the other side because if you're the one initiating, you're the one that could get rejected.
Right. Absolutely. So there's a level of vulnerability that comes with initiating first because what if you get rejected? Yeah, absolutely. But you know what? Sometimes rejection happens, but we teach them, again, just because it's hard doesn't mean it's bad. Yeah, so next is just help them improve their communication skills. Anybody likes to talk to someone who seems knowledgeable or just fun to talk to and can talk about a plethora of subjects. And I think this comes from expansive things, reading, watching shows, you talking to them about current world events. I mean, it's just fun. What are they interested in? Cars, music, sports, like whatever it is. It's fun when someone knows a little bit about everything because they're just a fun person to have conversations with. Yeah. So,
or at least knowing how to steer the conversation somewhere,
Yeah. It seems like,
Yeah. Ahead, I was going to say, because being good in conversations isn't only just an outgoing thing. Yeah. Kind of how we talked about before is if you have self-control, that doesn't mean good at conversations doesn't mean you're the only one talking all the time.
Right.
It means you're good in the art form of that kind of communication, which if y'all are looking for a resource out there, everybody loves watching YouTube. That young people watch YouTube all the time, too much.
It's the number one social media channel.
Yes, ever. Crazy. Yeah. So something that you can kind of point them towards, if you YouTube Charisma University, they have a lot of very good, very short videos that teach this art of communication through there. So it's one of my favorite ones to kind of grow for myself.
Yeah. No, I love it. We're going to hurry through the last few. Number 5, know who you are and who you are not. I love this because the more confidence that students have in who they were created to be, and you're speaking that life into them. And honestly, you know them because they've grown up with you. You see what they like and what they don't like. But the more confidence they have in who they're created to be, the less likely they are to know who they're not. So for instance, if you say, hey, my student, my beautiful child, I see that you're so generous. And So they know that they are not a selfish person because you've told them that they're generous and you're not lying to them.
Yeah.
You're teaching them who they are, who God's created them to be, and it's going to help them in their friendships, I think, for years to come.
I love that the positive you speak into them is also teaching them that they're not the inverse of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're so joyful. You're also teaching them they're not angry.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And honestly, positive affirmations are one of the biggest things I think we can do as a parent because we're teaching our kids, like, this is who you are. I love that saying that says, treat your, I don't know what it is, but it's something along like, treat your kids like kings and queens, and that's who they become. It's like they're confident in who they are and who God made them to be. And if we're teaching that and we're teaching them like, hey, you are joyful, you are full of goodness. I mean, that's the fruit of the Spirit too.
It is. Yeah.
And so I think that's so good. Yeah. So, okay, we have just a few more and I'm going to go quick. Number 6, just forgive quickly. Teach them to forgive quickly. But if you're teaching them and saying those words, make sure you're forgiving quickly too, because they're seeing what you're doing. Yeah. But talk through what they're going through with their friends, and just teach them how they can forgive and do it quickly, so they can keep that friendship strong and whole. 7, be honest and open. Teaching friends to be honest and open with each other. And when it's time to have a tough conversation with them. And when it's time to maybe, your student's going to coffee with someone and they're like, man, my friend just talked the whole time and I didn't, but they talked about hard things that they're going through with their family or different friends. Maybe they needed that in that moment too, and so know that, being open and honest is also recognizing cues of what your friends need from you too. Yeah. 8, teaching them not to sweat the small stuff. Let the small stuff be the small stuff and remind them of that. It's not that big of a deal. Yeah. Instead of playing in like, oh, I can't believe they did that to you. Just say, well, I don't really know that that's big of a deal. I'm sorry it made you feel that way. But also, why did it make you feel that way? Just have the conversation and say, I don't really think it was that big of a deal. They probably, as a flippant comment. So 9, and this is a good one. Help them learn how to set boundaries in friendships and keep them. I think sometimes we allow our students to let their friends say or do or be whatever they want to be. And we have to teach our students that to be a healthy adult, we have to set boundaries. Yeah. And I think that all of these things that we've talked about also leads up to setting those boundaries, right? Who are you? Not being afraid to initiate, make things more yours. I think all of them are coming to this crux of these are the boundaries that I'm going to have in my life. I'm going to be kind. I'm going to initiate first. I'm going to forgive quickly, but I also know that there are lines that I won't cross. Yeah. And you have to talk to your student about what those lines are and how to do it in a healthy way. So I love it. Thankful for you parents. Yes. We're helping you. We hope we help you as you're navigating through friendships. I know that, man, it's good to have people to talk through with this. And so hopefully these are some good tips for you. We're signing off today. Just want you to remember that you can do this. You're not alone. God is with you, and so are we. We'll see you next time.
See you next week, parents.